Hello, everyone, and welcome to Men's Mental Health Week at Worcester Scars. This week, we're talking about men's mental health, and I'm having some guests today and on Sunday, and we're going to carry on the conversation perhaps throughout June. But for those who are new to the channel, my name is Joanna Daniel. I'm a counselor, a speaker, and an author. I'm founder of Worcester Scars. We work with adult survivors of childhood trauma and women who experience abuse. And so we talk about all things abuse and mental health from a Christian perspective. How does that impact Christians? And so today I have a special guest. If you're not new here, this is not unfamiliar. And I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then we're going to go into the conversation.
Hi, my name is Eddie Hypolite. I am I'm London born, now living in Australia. I am a minister by vocation and a educational consultant, and I've done that for the past 25 odd years now. I now run a life development and resilience consultancy here in Australia. And I'm a full-time student. I've just gone back to studying full-time again. And I'm part of a research team, researching belonging out of the University of South Australia. So yeah, I think that's my that's me for now. I know during the course of the conversation, I'll probably share more and from my journey and share more from this conversation. But it's good to be back here with you again, Joanna. It's been a long
Yes,
time since we've had this back and forth.
it
We
has.
did. I felt like we did so much of this in 2020 and 2021. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yes,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
did. This is my first time doing a live video since December, since
Oh wow.
mid-December.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I know you've been on a journey yourself. I know you've
I
been on a
have.
journey yourself. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah. It's a long time since I've done a live video as well. I can't actually remember the last time I've done a live. So
Mm.
we're both back and walking gingerly in this space.
Gingerly is the word. That's the word. That's the word. Gingerly.
By the way, in Australia right now it's 6:05 in the morning. So excuse me if I have my lemongrass.
Have your lemongrass tea. That tea sounds so delicious, but we understand. We
Yeah.
understand. Have your tea. So Eddie and I are going to talk about mentoring and how that can impact men and how that can have a positive effect on mental health. And so, because I know Eddie does a lot of this work, we've talked about it in different ways. Last year, the year before last, and some of the videos are here on the channel. You did some group for us at Worcester Scars. I was looking at some of the replays the other day, and I know that the men benefited greatly from the space and from the work that you did. It was such a pivotal time in a few of them lives as well.
Yeah, it was a really good journey. It was a really good journey. I enjoyed that immensely. Enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah. So I wanted to start with societal expectation of men and how does expectation of masculinity impacts men's willingness to discuss their mental health. That came from my daughter went to this event and they were talking. Some men were at the table talking, and this young man said, "Men don't need therapy. We can do things on our own. We don't need to talk to a stranger." You know, that a kind of
Mm.
viewpoint. And I wonder how much societal expectation of men and being able to manage everything plays into that kind of narrative.
Mm. I think that for the most part um, contributes to first of all to male toxicity, and it contributes to poor mental health on the part of men. Um,
Yeah.
because I don't believe that as human beings, you know, regardless of what that young man thinks,
Mm.
as human beings, I don't believe that we are wired to actually be on our own in a corner and figure it out by ourselves. I know that is a very Western, rugged male individualism. You will work it out. Men are the hunter gatherer. That kind of idea of manhood. But as human beings, we're not actually wired to be that way. So I think societal expectations of what a man should be, and I'm not saying that a man shouldn't be a provider. I'm not saying that a man shouldn't be a hunter gatherer.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying that a man shouldn't be I'm not saying that a man shouldn't be a protector. I'm not saying that a man shouldn't be any of those things. But when the pressure of being all of those things hits a man cannot sit in a corner by himself and try to figure it out. You know what I mean? And it's interesting how, especially from a Christian perspective, it's interesting watching men actually profess their Christian belief and their Christian ideology and actually practice manhood, because the Western idea and the Western ideal of manhood is in direct conflict with the biblical idea of manhood. It's in direct conflict. And because we forget that the Bible is an Eastern book. The Bible is an Eastern book. It's written in the global South. It's not written in the global North. And so in the biblical sense, in the biblical context, the Bible makes it clear, that while society says, well, a man is a rugged individual, a man will figure it out, as it were, the old British keep a stiff upper lip, in Australia here, they say, don't worry, it'll work out. You know what I mean? She'll be right. That's what they say here. In England, it will come out in the wash.
Yeah.
In the Bible says, no, two are better than one, for they have returned for their labor. One falls, the other can lift him up. Yeah. You know what I mean? But trouble for the person who, when they fall, has no one to pick him up. A two-stringed rope is strong, but a three can never be broken. So the Bible is made it clear. Paul says it in the book of Ephesians. We are members of each other. You know what I mean? When Paul speaks about the human body, when he talks about the church, and he uses the idea of the human body Paul is talking about a whole body of whole parts. He ain't talking about, the hand, which represents the man, is just there on his own doing it. The hand cannot move without the arm, without the shoulder, and without the brain. So I think societal expectations of masculinity, first of all, adds to male toxicity in that space, and then it adds to men's mental health in a detrimental way, because a man will not be willing to share his struggle, not be willing to say that he can't work it out. He will not be willing to say the wall is too hard to climb. I need a rope. I need help. A man will not be willing to do that. So I think right there in that space, I think from a biblical and a non-biblical, whether you're a believing person from a community of faith or a non-believing person from a community of faith, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, as a human being, you are not wired to do it on. You are not wired to do it on your own.
We are not wired to do it on our own. And there's so many things that I know is rest on the shoulders of men. There's so many things that, when I see my husband and I see how hard he works, and when I was ill and I saw how he carried that, and so when I was asking people to pray for me, I was asking them to pray for him, because I was seeing that. We're not wired to be on our own. We can't do it on our own. We need to be in community and in spaces where we're seeing.
Absolutely.
So how can mentoring help that? How can, and I'm specifically thinking about now how we can use technology as well to assist in that with the world the way it is, because you're in Australia, we're in England, the way the world is now. How can mentoring help the needs of men?
Well, it's interesting. When you especially mentioning technology, whenever I'm praying with somebody over the phone, I always say, "Thank you, Lord, for using technology to keep the world small."
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, right there, technology keeps the world small.
It does.
You it is coming up to 9:15 in the evening, um, Tuesday
Hmm.
evening, and it is
Yes,
6:15 Wednesday morning in
Wednesday
Australia.
morning.
So
And
I'm
here we are
talking to you
talking.
from tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes,
I'm
yes.
talking to you from tomorrow, but yet we're talking and connecting in real time.
Hmm.
So I think what technology breaks that barrier there, and then what mentoring does, I think what mentoring gives men the space to um, safely interrogate how they're doing. What mentoring
Mm.
does, I describe mentoring as the process and the journey of mutual growth
Mutual
and,
growth.
and intentional connectedness.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just the process and the journey of mutual growth and intentional connectedness. Because in any good mentoring, both of you grow.
Yes.
Yeah, the idea is not, well, I'm the mentor and you come to
I'm
me
I'm gonna give
and
you
I teach you.
right,
No, that's foolishness.
right,
You know what I mean? No,
right.
it's an interconnected, mutual interconnection, you know what I mean, and mutual growth. I am going to share with you from my life and you're going to benefit,
Mm.
but then you're going to
Mm.
share from your life and I'm going to benefit.
Right.
It
I
is
think
that.
that immediately feels better
Yeah,
because it's not I'm coming to you and you're giving and
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't I never give to
yeah,
you
yeah,
and you're never
yeah.
learning from me. So I like that idea of
It's
mutual
neither
mutual growth.
leverage and it's neither transactional.
Yeah.
It's relational.
It's relational.
Yeah. Mentoring is relational, and I believe that mentoring can help men address it can help address men's mental health, because the one place a man needs to feel safe is in the place that he shares his vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one place that a man needs to feel safe. What my favorite story of male vulnerability is King Jehoshaphat in Second Chronicles,
Yeah.
where the army is coming against him, and he's the king, and they make it clear. I think it's verse 4. The king was afraid.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you're in trouble. You're the king. The king was afraid. But what does the king do? The king calls everybody into community, and he speaks with honesty in community. He draws the nation to the temple, and he asks God a series of questions. Are you not God? Do you not rule? Will you not
Mm.
act? You know what I mean? Have you not been faithful? And then he says this, and he confesses the one thing a man never wants to confess in company. He says, "For we are powerless and we are clueless."
Wow.
Yeah. And that's the one thing a man does not want to be in a crisis. That's the one thing a man
Powerless
does
and
not want to.
clueless.
Yeah, powerless and clueless. For we are powerless and we don't know what to do. But then he says this, but our eyes are on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And in that moment there, because the king is willing to admit that, the story says that the spirit falls on another young boy, Jehoshaphat. And the spirit speaks to Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat jumps up and he says, "King, the Lord has spoken. Don't worry about it." And then he comes with those famous words. You know what I mean? "Go out and have no fear, for the battle is not yours,
But
it's
the
the Lord."
Lord's.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
You know what?
yeah,
What I was going to say, what I think is incredible about that story is that you said it out loud. Because as I'm listening, I know people who experience trauma, who we work with at Wounds to Scars, often we struggle with asking for support and we struggle with
yeah,
accessing support. And many people will
yeah,
say, well, the Lord is my strength.
yeah,
I'm going to go to him. But Jehoshaphat didn't pray on his own quietly. He said it out
yeah,
loud.
yeah,
So, and that's, you're talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
mentoring being a space that you can be vulnerable
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
to
yeah.
say things out loud that you're powerless and clueless.
And mentoring really is there's I mean, all the way through the Bible, you know what I mean? Abraham and Lot, you know, Jethro and Moses, Moses and Joshua, Eli, Samuel, you know, Samuel, Saul and David, you know, Naomi, Ruth, Mordecai,
Yeah, lots of it.
Jesus, the disciples, Elizabeth, Mary. I mean, we can go on and on and on. Mentoring, if you look properly at this book that you believe in, you realize, oh, this is literally a part of the kingdom life. This is
Yes.
literally a part of how God has ordered human life, you know. And so it's and then if you just read history books, you'll
Mm-hmm.
realize, oh, all right then, yeah, this is not a biblical idea in the East, in the global South, in which this book is written. No, that's just a part of life. That's just a part,
Normal.
you know, it's just a normal part of life that you
Yeah.
mentor, you know, that you mentor, you know.
And one of the things that mentoring can do is help with connection. And we know that people who are isolated, that's one of the, what, with mental health, we don't want
Yeah,
isolation. We want people to be in community that is safe, where you
yeah,
can get support, spaces where you can be
absolutely,
vulnerable, where you can be
absolutely,
vulnerable in.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So if somebody is looking for a mentor, what are some of the qualities that you think that should be in a good mentor? You named one of them earlier where you says it's mutual growth. That means the mentor, a
Mhm.
mentor that has the capacity to learn from you as well, and it's not a top down relationship. But what are some of the other things people can look for if they're looking for a mentor?
I think if you're looking for a mentor, that you look for somebody who is connected to their own story. They're connected to their,
Ooh, that's really good.
yeah. They're connected to their own story, because it's out of their story that they mentor you. It's
Mm.
out of their own it's out of their own strengths and their own weaknesses, you know. It's out of their own spiritual journeys. It's out of all of those things, you know. It's, you know, a person who, you know, knowing their capacity for being critical and being self-critical, and, you know, knowing your own motivations, knowing your own strengths, knowing your own demons.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, somebody, and somebody who is balanced and non-judgmental.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, somebody who's balanced and non-judgmental. It doesn't mean that as a man you have to be perfect, but it does mean that as a man you have to be realistic, or, you know, you know, you have to be realistic about um, how much you actually can do.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, I know that mentoring is not therapy.
No,
Yeah, you know, and so people will come to me,
but it's
and
therapeutic.
but it's, oh no, it's, yeah,
Yeah.
and I love that. I love that distinction. It's not therapy, but it's therapeutic. You know what I mean? And when I
Mm-hmm.
say it's not therapy, somebody may come to me and, you know, and it's about life mentoring, but I know that there are aspects of things that they're struggling with mentally, that I say, listen, along with this mentoring, you need to get therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you know, what you're struggling with here is gonna be undone. You know, you don't
Mm.
have the professional capacity to properly help you in this area. I know
That's
that.
well, that's very holding. That's what that feels safe to me. That's what a
Yeah,
safe space is.
absolutely. A safe space is about letting the person know the limits and the boundaries of what is available, and what, you know, what you're able to do in this space, and not being as a mentor, don't worry, I can fix it. You know what I mean? No, you can't fix it, you know. And the way you're going to fix it is to tell that person to go and get therapy as well as doing the mentoring.
Mm.
So that's what I mean when I say it. And but mentoring is therapeutic.
Yes, it is
Mentoring is
indeed.
therapeutic. It's interesting when people want me to mentor them, and I always say, if you want me to mentor you, you have to come and ask me to be your mentor.
Yeah.
And it's not because I feel say I'm enough, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's not because I feel say I'm enough or I'm king mentor. You have to ask me because I know for the people who have mentored me and who still mentor me, I have to ask them to mentor me, because in asking, I'm giving them permission to say the things that other people probably won't say. You know what I mean? And because in the mentoring journey, we open ourselves up to each other in a way that
Mm.
I begin to see parts of their lives that they
Yeah.
just don't show anybody. You
Yeah.
have to give me permission to speak into what you're opening up.
Right.
Because if you don't, you know what I mean? And it's been the case where I've been down a road with somebody and they're like, well, what are you saying? Like what are you saying? And I'm like, oh, snaps, and then I'm realized, it's not that type of relationship then. And
Right.
I had to mentally pull it back, and I'd say, oh no, all right, I'm not your mentor. I'm just kind of giving you advice if you need it, and take it if you want. Yeah, I literally pulled it all the way back because I realized, oh, you haven't given me permission to speak into your life like that. You know what I mean? And not only that,
Mm.
my process of mentoring is that I am going to bring you into my life and I'm going to bring you into my community. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I have to, as it were, make sure that you're safe to bring, because my process of mentoring is that I bring you along my life. I bring you along my life.
So the mentor is doing something too, and because before you said those things, I was going to ask about somebody who shows up in the space with. Initially, I thought ego, but I thought no, it's not. It probably would be fear that is disguised as
Yeah.
as ego
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
arrogance, but it's really
Yeah.
fear that
Yeah.
would show up in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is inevitable that ego is going to show up somewhere in this, especially if you're not used to being vulnerable,
Yes.
especially if you're not used to being powerless and clueless in in community or in front of another individual.
Yeah.
So ego will show up. But I remember the words of Dr. Michael Patterson, and I'll never forget it. He said that vulnerability is a gift to be unwrapped and not shunned.
Mm.
Vulnerability is a gift to be unwrapped and not shunned. Because what vulnerability does is vulnerability opens you up to all the possibilities of healing on the other side of your vulnerability. Yeah. Vulnerability opens you up to all the help, all the healing, the new perspectives. It opens you up to everything.
Yeah.
It opens you up to everything that is good and everything that is needed. If you're willing to trust it, trust vulnerability. And if you're willing to trust the person who you're going to be vulnerable with and trust that they're safe. Because if you can trust that, then as a man, you're in a good space. You're in a good space. And the mentoring process enables that. I believe the mentoring process enables and empowers that.
It does. So you talked about some of the things that if somebody's looking for a mentor, somebody who's connected to their own story is really crucial because they're going to do the mentoring out of that story. Then we talked about safety, and a safe person is somebody who's respectful and they're kind. They respect your boundaries. They have boundaries. They are able to communicate well. But I think for safety, respecting your boundaries and you respecting theirs is such a crucial role, because sometimes when we are vulnerable, and I'm going to say vulnerable not in the sense that we're sharing honestly, but we're vulnerable in the sense that there's stuff that is going on that that is outside of our control and we're
Yeah,
struggling.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That kind of vulnerable when life is overwhelming and we just need somebody. And sometimes it can, when it gets like that, we can sometimes not follow the rules in how in who we speak to, and
Mm-hmm.
we're not able to assess
Mm-hmm.
what is safe and what isn't safe, especially as a lot of people haven't ever experienced a safe space
Mm-hmm.
or haven't ever experienced anybody who was safe, and so they tend to go into relationships with people that are harmful. And so
Mm-hmm.
really if you're looking for a mentor, think about somebody who is able to share honestly, somebody who is respectful, somebody who communicates well, they respect your boundaries and they have boundaries of their own. And as Eddie said, they're connected to their own story, so you're not the only one sharing. It's a mutual growth journey that is happening.
Absolutely.
What are some of the ways that I know, as a counselor, I have supervision, some place that I go talk through how I feel, how things are impacting me, talk through my case. What are some of the ways a mentor can resource themselves so that they don't suffer burnout, so that they're available for the people who need them?
I think the same um, the same principles. I think a mentor has to be aware of their strengths. A mentor
Yeah.
has to be aware of their weaknesses. You know, a
Mm.
mentor has to be aware of their limitations. Um, a mentor, and it depends on, it depends on how intense the mentoring process is. It depends on how engaged the mentoring process is, and it depends on
Yeah.
what type of mentoring you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It could be life mentoring. It could be, mentoring around business. It could be academic mentoring. It depends
Mm-hmm.
on what it is. But I think one of the things that a mentor can do is um, find healthy self wellness spaces outside of the mentoring space. The mentor also can have a mentor.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. The mentor themselves can have a mentor. The mentor can have their own space. It may be another men's group themselves that they can sit in, and in a
Mm-hmm.
safe company of men, they can offload. They can be vulnerable in this space, and they can almost be anonymous in another space. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
where people are just actually sharing and encouraging and affirming. I think a mentor can find those type of spaces for themselves and create them type of spaces for themselves.
Create them too if you
It's
don't, if it's not
I'm a
available.
firm believer in, the spaces that you can't find. You know what I mean? Um, the spaces that you can't find, um, then create them. Yeah, then create it. Bring the people around you and
I
create.
agree. I agree with that.
I am a firm believer in that. Yeah, if you have your own space, if you have, you know, as much as a front room, you can create
Hmm.
your own space. And if you don't have a space, you can find a coffee shop, you can find a local library, you can find a local community space in which you can call people together and you can gather, and you can create that type of space. For the spaces that you can't find, I believe that you create them.
Create
Yeah,
them. Create
yeah.
them. Thank you so much, Eddie, for this conversation. I noticed there are people here live. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. But as we wrap up, I want to encourage you, if you're struggling with your mental health, you may not have a diagnosis, but you're just struggling with life, as we all do. And if you're at a place like Eddie mentioned, where Jehoshaphat was, where he was powerless and clueless, we do get to those places as well. Find support. We were created to connect. We weren't created to be on our own and live on our own and to tough it out. We can have support. We can have people who will mentor us, and people who will look out for us. So I know that as men, there are a lot of things that rest on your shoulders. You don't have to carry them alone. Any final thing you'd like to say, Eddie, before we go?
Yeah, I think you kind of really said it well. Just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the journey of vulnerability. Men need the company of men. They really do need the company of men. We've just started a men's group at our church, and we've been meeting for the past. This week is the fourth week that we're meeting. We decided we're going through a series for 5 weeks,
Uh,
and it has just been, for me, it has been groundbreaking. I've been able to share in that space, and I've been able to share struggles that I've had, in that space, and just finally feel free to do so and just be supported. And because I was able to do it, then others were able to do it, and now we've just bonded in such a
oh
beautiful way.
wow,
And we realize, like, I've been carrying this, and all right, I don't have to carry it alone. Men need the company of men.
they
Yeah.
do.
Even Jesus, when he was here in the Garden of Gethsemane, he needed the company. He needed the
It
company
did.
of his brothers. Yeah, we are not islands. We were never created to be islands. So find a company of men. Two are better than one. Two are better than one. Two are better
Two are
than one.
better than one. I think that's a lovely note to end on. Find the company of other men. I hope that there'll be men with the circles that they're willing to open to let you in, because two are better than one. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you. I'll be here on Sunday talking to Felix and Diddley on more men and mental health. Take care.